Am I the asshole for eating meat at my aunt's house when my dad wasn't around? So I'm 15 male and I live with my dad, 45 male, and his boyfriend, Mark, 40 male.
My mum died from cancer when I was 9, and then a year later dad came out as gay and started dating Mark. They've been together since and I'm cool with it, I just want dad to be happy.
The issue is that since dad got with Mark, he's become this hardcore vegan. Like, out of nowhere, we went from eating normal food to everything being plant-based. At first, I thought it was just gonna be at home, but nope.
Dad decided that I'm not allowed to eat anything that's not vegan even when I'm not at home. He says it's about ethics and not supporting animal cruelty, which I get, but I don't see why I can't make my own choices when I'm away from the house.
So here's where I might have messed up. I stay with my aunt, my mom's sister, every other weekend. She's always been really chill and doesn't have all these crazy rules like dad.
A few weeks ago, I was at my aunt's place and she asked if I wanted a burger for dinner.
Dad wasn't there, so I figured, why not? I haven't had meat in forever and I was really missing it. I ate the burger. It was amazing, honestly. I didn't think it was a big deal since it wasn't at home and dad wasn't around.
But then, when dad came to pick me up, my aunt mentioned it.
She wasn't trying to cause drama, she just casually brought it up, and dad lost it.
He totally flipped out on my aunt, saying she was disrespecting him and his choices and that she shouldn't be feeding me stuff that goes against his rules. Then he turned on me, calling me ungrateful and saying I've betrayed him and everything he's been trying to teach me.
Since then, he's been giving me the silent treatment and hasn't talked to me at all. It's super awkward at home now. I feel like I was just making my own decision, especially since I wasn't even at home.
But now I'm wondering if I should have respected his rules even when I'm not with him. I really don't want to hurt him, but this whole thing feels so unfair.
Am I the asshole for eating meat at my aunt's place when dad wasn't around? Should I have just stuck to his vegan rules even when I'm not at home? Not the asshole flipping out on you and your aunt is not okay.
And giving you the silent treatment? That's a control tactic and not healthy in any relationship. You're more than old enough to be able to make your own choices about your diet, if you'd like to be vegan or not. Him making that choice for you is what's unethical. He doesn't have the right to force that lifestyle on you, especially when you're not in his home. I think it's up to you to decide if it's best to bring and bear it until you're 18 and hopefully able to move out on your own, or start standing firm in what you want in your own diet. Either way, I think it's worth talking it over with a counselor at school, to help you navigate this.
The way he's treating you around this subject isn't okay. Not the asshole. You're growing into adulthood. You need to be able to make your own decisions. In a few years, you'll be in college and making a lot of your own choices. Your father is being completely unreasonable, not uncommon for a convert.
As long as you don't bring meat into his house, it shouldn't make any difference to him. Veganism is his choice, not yours.
Not the asshole. I love that vegans exclusively give themselves a bad name all on their own.
You're 3 years out from adulthood. He needs to get a grip and realize you aren't him, and he can force his shit on you all he wants, but you can just decide to stop the moment you're 18. Ask him if he would go as far as to never speak to you again if that happens. If so, you have a lot bigger issues on your hands.
Not the asshole. I don't think it's fair for your dad to be forcing his beliefs regarding food on you like that, especially outside of the home.
If it were me, I'd continue to eat how I want outside of the home, and just be more careful to ensure he won't find out.
I'm vegan. I was forced to eat meat until I was 18 because, my house, my rules. I made the choice WAAAAAY before that.
Because I was old enough to choose but not to break their rules, I ended up resenting them a shit ton. I understand, and agree, with them wanting to educate you on animal welfare, but forcing their views on you is just gonna make you resent them and want to do the opposite.
Not the asshole.
Your dad is Morrissey, right?
Not the asshole, but your father is. You are old enough to decide for yourself what you eat. I understand your father not paying for meat groceries or wanting meat in his house, but outside of his house, you are entitled to exercise free choice. I say that as a vegetarian. Am I the asshole for ruining my sister's wedding and honeymoon?
So I, 20F, have an older sister, 30F, who I'll call Emily.
Emily got married 2 months ago to her partner Danny, 34M.
My siblings and I grew up together and Emily was a huge influence, along with my other older sister Mary, 27F. They were both wild and so, from a young age, I knew a lot more than I was supposed to. About partying, dating, etc. Nothing weird or scandalous really.
Mary got married 4 years ago and I'm really close to my brother-in-law.
He knows about her partying, drinking and pretty much everything else she did and he never had a problem with any of it. Well, I've met Danny only a handful of times since they live far away and so I assumed they talked about it all.
Come wedding rehearsal, the day before, we started sharing interesting stories from our childhood.
Danny asked me how come I've never dated, drank or partied.
I, not even thinking it might be a big deal, said that after hearing all the stories from my older sisters, never really wanted to or felt the need to.
Danny looked a bit confused but said nothing.
Mary just glared at me.
Later, Mary told me Danny knew nothing of Emily's wild days. I apologized to Emily and she told me it wasn't a big deal.
I hadn't thought about it in 2 months, but Emily and Danny visited us yesterday.
Danny was as nice as ever, while Emily was a bit standoffish. While Danny was out with our dad, Mary and Emily ganged up on me and told me Danny was mad at Emily for lying and that I ruined their wedding and honeymoon. My mom heard us talking, came into the room and chewed out my sisters for blaming me for Emily's lies. After they went to my sister's place, they were gonna stay with her for a couple of days prior to this incident. I started feeling anxious and bad about what happened and the part one played in it. My mom told my dad and brother what happened and they both said I did nothing wrong and my dad said he would make my sisters apologize, but I don't want them to get involved. So, am I the asshole for ruining my sister's wedding and honeymoon?
Update.
Hello everyone, hand waving, thank you all for answering and reaching out privately. We did have the dreaded talk, but first, I'd like to address some comments and concerns. My brother-in-law asked because, while pretty much everyone drank alcohol, I didn't.
It wasn't ill-intended and there was no hidden agenda. Emily, to my knowledge, never partook in any criminal behavior. They are all Orthodox Christians, I'm an atheist, while Danny is Catholic. I don't even know if Danny knows I'm an atheist, since we haven't really talked about religion outside of the wedding. I don't think this had much of an impact, but I noticed some people were wondering. We are not in a cult. Tears of joy.
Both of my brothers-in-law are lovely people.
They could be considered a bit more uptight, but they truly are good people.
Who and how many people my sister had slept with is no one's business and I will not indulge in discussing it, nor will I shame anyone for it.
Yes, I did say stories from my sisters, which do include a lot of stories about other people. So, in reality, I didn't really reveal anything. I wish my sister and brother-in-law nothing but the best and, of course, a lasting and healthy marriage with communication. My sisters aren't idiots. Well, they are, but not how you think, sibling compliment. And no, my brother-in-law isn't interested in me more than my sister. I can't even tears of joy. Our family dynamic is fine. It truly was, in our opinion, a stupid misunderstanding.
Sorry, I know this is already long, but onto the talk. Basically, my sister and brother-in-law are both idiots, with much love. Turns out my brother-in-law was upset she didn't tell him everything, but he got over it quickly. He didn't mention anything for almost 2 months because he thought Emily was upset with herself in the situation, so he didn't want to make it worse. Now, my sweet idiot sister does something similar, that he was upset with her, so she didn't want to make the situation worse than it already was. So, basically, the wedding and honeymoon were ruined, because they had an awful case of worrying about the other one and walking on eggshells around one another. My brother-in-law was never upset with me and my sister wasn't really upset with me either. Before visiting us yesterday, Emily went out for a coffee with her friend Lexi, 30F.
Lexi had always been interesting. She's one of those people who only care about themselves and are never happy for their friends.
Don't ask me how Emily hadn't noticed. As friends do, Emily confided in Lexi and she told her Danny is probably preparing to leave her and that's why he's distant, plus that she deserved it. So Emily went to my sister's upset and later we had the disagreement. Both Mary and Emily sincerely apologized for attacking me and to the rest of the fam for the stress.
Later yesterday, they went to my sister's and Emily started crying while she thought Danny was out. Danny heard her and they finally talked it through. Their conclusion was that they were both idiots, Tears of joy.
The cherry on top was the fact that, about a week before visiting us, Emily found out she was pregnant, pre-wedding baby, I was told. So, when she went to my sister crying about a possible divorce, she told her she was pregnant.
I guess that's why Mary took her side.
I apologized to both Emily and Danny for the part one played in this mess, and they said what y'all said too, that I can't lie about something if I don't know I'm supposed to, and that I shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place.
So, as of now, Lexi is out, we're all fine, and I'm getting a nibbling next year. And Danny and Emily decided to have a do-over honeymoon on their anniversary next year with the BB. Moira Rose, anyone?
All, probably a disappointing update for some, but I couldn't be happier with the outcome. Edit. I thought it was about her drinking because, through Emily's crying, that's what Mary thought too. How are you supposed to keep with the lies if you don't know there are lies to keep up with? It's pretty much common knowledge that wedding rehearsals are time for good-natured teasing of the bride and groom.
Emily and Mary should have seen this coming and warned you. And it's not even like you gave sordid details, not the asshole. Edit. Good-natured, not God-natured.
Of course you are not the asshole.
Trying to shift the anger onto you is what makes your bride's sister one and the other one assisting her especially. She should have owned you to her lies, as it would most likely have come out in the future anyway, or were they planning to go and see with everyone who knew your sister in her wild phase?
Her poor husband, learning about your bride-to-be's probably promiscuous past and being lied to definitely puts a damper on one's wedding celebration and honeymoon. The timing was unfortunate, but better before than after the wedding.
Not the asshole. You're definitely not the asshole in this situation.
How would you have known that Emily did not tell your brother-in-law about her past? Additionally, if Emily did not want Danny to find out, she should have warned everyone to keep quiet about it. Your sister should just own up to the consequences of lying to brother-in-law instead of playing the victim and blaming you.
Not the asshole. Your sister should have been upfront. If not you, from the other Bill, or someone else from their past.
It's not something she can keep hidden, and since no one told you this was a deep dark secret, how are you to know to keep quiet?
I'm glad your family was on your side. Your sisters are that owe you an apology. Not the asshole.
Given how many people witnessed their party days, I am not sure why they assumed no one would ever mention it and accidentally expose the lie.
And your sister is a major asshole for lying to her fiancé. Not the asshole.
So your sister's lies are your fault?
Not even a little bit. Am I the asshole for not waiting for my niece to walk inside? I took my boyfriend's niece to a festival. At one point, I get a call from my dad who told me about a family emergency. I quickly drove my niece back home. She got out of the car and started heading to the house. I saw her mom's car was parked in the driveway, so I figured she'd be okay. I went to see my dad and didn't look at my phone for a while.
When everything was sorted, I found my boyfriend's sister-in-law and my boyfriend had both called me at separate points. I call his sister-in-law first.
She goes off on me, asking why I left before making sure her daughter got in the house. I explained my emergency. She said that she wasn't home and her daughter was left on the porch for 20 minutes alone.
I asked if there was no spare key or anything.
She said no, and even then, it shouldn't matter. She's 8 and shouldn't be home alone. She pointed out that I dropped her off earlier than expected. I said yeah, because there was an emergency. She asked why I didn't call her, because she would have told me to drop her off where she was. I said I saw the car in the driveway and assumed she was home. She was still pissed.
When I called my boyfriend, he said I was majorly in the wrong and should have waited to see if she made it inside.
I used to babysit his niece often. She's a cool kid and I don't mind doing it.
But now the sister-in-law is saying I can never babysit her again as I traumatized her daughter. Am I really an asshole?
Her mom is entirely right and you are entirely wrong. You are responsible for a child. A family emergency doesn't mean you stop being responsible.
At every step you made bad choices. You're lucky they didn't have terrible consequences.
You could have called her mom but didn't. You could have waited 30 seconds to ensure someone was home but didn't. You could have taken responsibility but you didn't do that either. You are the asshole. I would never trust you with my child again.
You are the asshole. You had a family emergency, which is fine, but you failed to communicate with the child's parent before dropping her off. You didn't call anybody and you just left her outside by herself when the child is only 8 years old.
You had time to call but chose not to. You had time to wait to see if the door was answered but you chose not to. These are a series of choices that you chose to make that put a child in danger. Any idea how easy it is for child predators to act? It takes seconds to minutes, and that would have been on you.
Your boyfriend and his sister-in-law are right to not want to trust you anymore after you put their kid in danger.
I was on your side until you said she was 8.
It's a bit different when talking about a 16-year-old, but your niece is still a child, whether she is a cool kid or not.
You definitely could have waited an extra 30 seconds, regardless of emergency. Even if there was a spare key, it's not safe for an 8-year-old kid to be home alone. Anything could happen if. I think the issue is probably that you aren't acknowledging why your boyfriend's family is upset. Things will calm down, but if I were you, I'd apologize to your boyfriend's sister and also to your niece.
So she's 8 years old and you just dropped her off and left? I get you had an emergency, but it would have taken what?
30 seconds to a minute to make sure she got in safely? No question, you are the asshole. You are the asshole.
Why didn't you call the mom?
The mom is 100% right.
You should not be able to babysit again or have the child out unsupervised.
You left a small child alone. Do you even realize the things that could have happened? And I am not just talking about the rare kidnapping.
She could have tried to get to a familiar place, school, a store, etc., where she knew people and been hit by a car, gone to a neighbor's and been violated, simply wandered off and been injured because, well, she is 8, and they get ideas.
Thankfully she was just upset by this incident. Sue.
Just to recap, you left an 8-year-old child alone without telling any of her parents or guardians where she was, or where you, her caretaker, were going.
I'm having a hard time believing you didn't realize that you needed to call her mom. I understand having a family emergency on your mind, but in what world does that make it okay to abandon the responsibility you have to make sure that this kid is safe? Sister-in-law is never going to trust you to take care of her kid again, and I think she's right not to. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for moving in with my dad full-time after my mom moved in with her partner and his kids? My mom moved in with her partner of 3 years recently. They bought a place together and they want to get married. Before moving, I, 16 female, always shared a room with my sister, 10 female. And my brother, 12 male, had his own room. But because my mom's partner has a 15-year-old daughter and his other kids are boys, they didn't want her in a room with the boys. So my sister was moved into a room with my brother and I was told her partner's daughter and I would be sharing. I didn't like that. I told her I'd rather share with my brother and let my sister share with her partner's daughter. Mom said that was not a good idea. My brother and sister suggested the 3 of us could share, but Mom cited space as the reason that couldn't happen. I didn't want to share a bedroom with someone I'm not close to. Love my siblings, so no big deal to share with them. Don't love the 15-year-old, so it was not something I was cool with. And my mom tried to argue about college, but I won't be going to college. I'm going to do a trade. And even if I end up with roommates, we'll have our own spaces. I told her all this. I also talked to her about my decision to stay with Dad full-time. It was written in their custody order that once we reach 16 we can make that decision if we want to. My mom didn't think I was serious. The wake-up call was when I moved nothing into her new house and only stayed for short visits versus overnight visits. My dad fully supports this. My mom and her partner aren't happy. And he's extra unhappy because his daughter is now the oldest and has no one close in age to hang with during family time. She's not that close with her brothers, according to my mom and her partner. I told them I'm not here to be her entertainment or companion and I'd hang with my siblings anyway, and the age gap is not a problem. My mom gave me an ultimatum to move in with them and stop living full-time with Dad. When I didn't change my mind, she told me I was acting spoiled and mentioned I had always shared a room. I said sharing a room was not the issue. But I always shared with siblings, not another random kid. Mom said it was so entitled to say that, and she also cussed my dad out for allowing me to live with him. She can't fight it though. It's in their custody papers. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Mom and stepdad were being downright foolish moving in together without having discussed this with you and your siblings and coming to a solution first. Doubly foolish that Mom doesn't understand you're a young adult with options. I am glad you have your dad's support in this. Sounds like staying would have been super toxic.
Not the asshole. Your mom is sounding like a brat. If you don't want to share a room with a 15-year-old who isn't related to you, that's your decision, not your mom's nor her partner. Parents are supposed to support you in your decisions, but your mom is the complete opposite. Your dad seems like a great dad and will definitely support your decisions in life. If you don't mind me asking, before you moved with your dad, would you and your siblings have overnights at your dad's place?
Or did your mom just disagree with that?
This reeks of your mother and her partner having some other agenda.
Is it possible that they are depending on child support from your dad to pay a mortgage they cannot afford themselves? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I hope your mom is upset about this because she will miss you and not because you are supposed to act as free entertainment for your step-siblings? Otherwise, seems like you found a solution to the issue of not enough space on their house. You're not the asshole.
Your mom and her partner should have listened to the opinions of the kids who they were trying to force to share rooms.
My mom gave me an ultimatum to move in with them and stop living full-time with dad. Or what? Not the asshole. You did what was best for you, and you obviously care for your siblings. Wouldn't be surprised if they follow as soon as they can.
How do they get along with their new roommates?